Hey guys, tonight we're slipping through the lacquered gates of a medieval Chinese palace not to fight, not to pray, not even to spy. We're here to seduce, or at least pretend we know how. It's the Tang Dynasty, and somewhere deep within a perfumed chamber, someone is fanning themselves while deciding who gets to survive by being interesting in bed. There's a eunuch with better fashion sense than any influencer, a girl who may or may not be drugged, and a bowl of longan porridge that smells like fear. This is the part of history that scholars avoid and poets romanticize, where desire is weaponized, and bodies become currency in the quietest auction imaginable. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It starts with fruit, not an apple, not some seductive pomegranate, no. A lychee, small, red, sticky like the inside of a mouth. You sit on a silk-covered bench that smells faintly of crushed orchids and something spoiled. The air clings to your skin, humid and slow, as if it spent the afternoon overhearing too many secrets. You've been travelling in a curtained wagon for days, carted like a minor treasure from the provinces to the imperial capital. Outside, bells chime on passing oxen. Somewhere nearby, a woman laughs in that thin, clipped way that women only laugh when they're not sure if they're safe. The eunuch sitting across from you picks his teeth with a hairpin. His robes are cleaner than yours. His skin has been powdered pale, but the sweat at his temples betrays him. "You'll be fine," he mutters, not looking at you, as long as you don't smell like horse again. He flicks something off his sleeve. You want to ask where you're going, not in a philosophical sense. Just literally, where will they take you next? But you've learned not to ask questions. Girls who ask questions get traded to temples or married off to poets. Instead, you watch as a servant peels a lychee in the corner. Her fingers are so practiced, the skin slips off like a secret. She hands it to the eunuch. He sniffs it, doesn't eat it, just nods, and then says the sentence that begins your new life. "She's fresh enough. Let's bring her to the ward." You don't know what the ward is. You will soon. The wagon rattles forward. You smell the city before you see it: cooked pork, plum wine, sewage, and underneath it all, incense, that thick, sour temple kind that coats your tongue. The main gates of Chang'an loom ahead, red, gilded, enormous. You could drive 5 wagons through them side by side and still have room for 2 bureaucrats arguing about moon calendars. As you pass through, you glimpse your first true noble, a man in golden robes riding a white horse. His face is blank, almost bored, but his eyebrows are sculpted into perfect arrogance. He doesn't look at you. Why would he? You're not real yet. But the servant beside him, the one holding his fan, does. Her eyes meet yours for a moment too long. You wonder, is she warning you, mourning you, or just bored too? Your wagon turns off the main road, rolling into a side courtyard where birds shriek in golden cages. As you step down, your knees buckle from the ride. 2 maids rush to adjust your hair, which is apparently too provincial. One of them mutters something about cow dung and marriage prospects. You're too thirsty to care. Inside the chamber, everything is red lacquered wood, velvet drapes, carved screens. You're led down a hallway where every footstep echoes like a polite insult. Finally, they bring you into a room with no furniture, just a polished floor, a copper mirror, and a low platform. The eunuch gestures. Strip. The word is sharp, not cruel, just mechanical. Like someone pulling a lever, you obey. The air hits your skin like a question. 2 older women enter with brushes and bowls. They don't speak. One starts powdering your back with crushed pearl. The other rubs your wrists with oil that smells like scorched cinnamon. When they're done, they step back. The eunuch claps twice. From the opposite wall, a panel slides open. A woman enters. She's not young. Her face is lined like silk left too long in the sun. But her posture is perfect, and her robe swishes like authority. She carries a scroll in one hand. She doesn't look at you right away. Instead, she examines your hair, your ankles, your teeth. She stops at your eyes. She says, "Better than the last one." You're not sure if that's good. The eunuch clears his throat. This is the one from Yeonju, daughter of the calligrapher. The woman nods. She'll do. Have her registered under Plum Pavilion. Start her on jasmine diet, daily. Before you can ask what that means, she's gone. You're left with the eunuch again. He smiles now, a little too kindly. Don't worry, he says. Some girls last months. You want to ask, last until what? But again you've learned. No questions. He gestures for you to follow. Come. Time to meet the others. Try not to trip. They'll notice. You walk through the corridor, bare feet on cold tile, the oil on your wrists growing sticky. In the next room, a dozen other girls sit silently, each dressed in shades of faded floral silk. They don't look up. A breeze slips through the open screen. It smells like plum blossoms, and lychee, always lychee, like sweetness rotting in the sun, like something ripe, right before the fall, and somewhere far away. Another wagon rolls in, and someone peels another fruit. It's colder than you expect, not in the air, but in the floor, smooth as jade, slick with morning condensation. You kneel on it as instructed, silk robe clinging to damp skin, trying not to shiver too obviously. The line of girls on either side of you does the same. No one wants to be the first to tremble. They told you it would be like a ceremony. They said graceful, elegant, refined. No one mentioned the livestock energy. A bronze gong hums low. From behind a screen of white silk painted with cranes mid-flight emerges a woman in dark green robes. She walks like she owns your spine. Her assistants follow in a precise V formation, carrying boxes that rattle with instruments. Your stomach growls. You pray no one hears it. The woman starts at the far end. She doesn't speak, just begins the examination. One girl is made to stand, arms outstretched, while the woman circles her like a hawk sizing up dinner. She checks teeth, palms, ankles, ears. She hums when satisfied, clucks disapprovingly when not. Every cluck is followed by a soft footstep, a hand on the shoulder, and removal, quiet, efficient, like trimming wilted petals from a bouquet. By the time she reaches you, 4 girls are gone. She stops in front of you, leans down. Her perfume is overpowering, something between lacquer and magnolia, with a hint of something sour, like fear disguised as citrus. She lifts your wrist, pressing it between 2 fingers. She examines your eyes, then your mouth, then, oddly, your knees. She says nothing. You hope that's good. She reaches into a lacquered box and pulls out an ivory tag. She ties it to a silk thread and hangs it gently around your neck. You look down stallion stock. The eunuch overseeing the room leans in and chuckles. Fast hips. Good bounce. Won't bruise easy. Your ears burn. You nod slightly, unsure if it's meant as praise or a veterinarian's note. The next room is worse. It's bright, too bright. A wall of polished bronze mirrors reflects you 100 times over, making it impossible to forget what you are. Your body is no longer yours. It's a product waiting to be shelved. A servant girl hands you a robe. Pale green silk, silver embroidery of plum blossoms at the hem. No underlayer. Don't move until it settles, she whispers. You obey. Arms out, as if waiting to be painted. The fabric sighs as it hugs your form. While you wait, another girl is rushed in. She's crying silently. Her tag says Willow Defect. She doesn't make eye contact. She's taken through a different door, one that doesn't seem to lead back anywhere. You don't ask what it means. You're learning. A bell rings again, this time sharper. A wave of attendants floods the room. They move fast, painting lips, pinning hair, brushing powder across collarbones and behind ears. Your hair is twisted into an elaborate knot, ornamented with a comb shaped like a lotus. Someone murmurs, "Tilt your chin." That's it. When they finish, you no longer recognize yourself. The mirror shows someone else. Softer, glossier, painted. Don't speak. A woman advises you, not unkindly. They prefer mystery and small smiles. A younger official appears, barely older than you, wearing a robe stiff with rank. He carries a scroll and a soft brush. He reads out names not yours, but titles ink petal, warm peach, whisper fan, cold teacup, cold teacup. You suppress a laugh, then feel a slap of panic. Did someone see that twitch of your mouth? He squints, then calls out again, "Evening, Lychee." A silk card is tied to your left sleeve, of course. The fruit again. You're herded into a narrow corridor where incense hangs low like a lazy curse. Each step feels more scripted than the last. Your reflection follows in the polished walls, always half a second behind. At the end of the hall is a curtain of golden beads, beyond which lies the viewing chamber. The eunuch looks over the group and says, "Enter in order, walk slowly, speak only when asked, and remember he's already bored. You're third, inside. The light is dim. Carpets muffle every sound. The scent of burning sandalwood coils around your ankles. At the centre of the room is a dais of green jade. Reclining on it is a man in blue and gold robes. His fingernails are dyed crimson. He sips from a porcelain cup with all the enthusiasm of someone flipping through a catalogue. This is the Emperor's cousin. He's here to sample. He's not here to remember. The first girl steps forward. He stares, waves his hand, dismisses her like a passing shadow. The second is bolder. She lets her sleeve fall just a bit. He raises an eyebrow. She's waved to the side. Your turn. You step forward slowly, as taught. Walk in a half circle. Let your robe shimmer under the lamplight. Stop. Tilt your chin. Breathe. But only through your nose. He watches. His eyes rest on the tag on your arm. "Evening, Lychee," he repeats, as though tasting it. Poetic. Predictable. He doesn't smile, then waves you off. You walk out the other side, escorted by a silent servant who smells faintly of cloves and vinegar. Back in the waiting room, the young official scribbles something on his scroll. He glances at you. You survived. For now. Stage 2. You open your mouth before thinking. He raises a brow. You close your mouth. Lesson learned. Stage 2 means a different floor. Literally. You're led down a narrow staircase where the air cools rapidly and smells like old citrus peels and dusted silk. A cat slinks across the hall ahead of you, its ears twitching. No one acknowledges it. The room at the bottom is smaller, cozier, deceptively intimate. Cushions, curtains, a low table with dried plums and sweet wine. It would be nice if it didn't feel like a trap. 2 older women greet you. One carries a silver bowl. The other holds a scroll with more titles. "This is your assignment room," she says. "You'll be here each evening for 10 nights. If you're chosen, you move forward. If not..." She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't have to. You're handed a cup of cold tea. Drink. You'll need your voice calm and your breath scented. It tastes like mint and something metallic. You pretend it's just herbs. The wall behind you slides open. A silhouette enters. You recognize the cousin. His robe has changed. His mood has not. He sits across from you. Silence. You're expected to amuse, but not talk. Be engaging, without engaging. Be art. You pour his wine. He watches your wrist, not your face. "Tell me something I've never heard." He finally says. You freeze. This wasn't in the instructions. You look down at your tag. Lychee. The fruit. The one from the wagon. The one they said toppled an empire. And you whisper. The Emperor once sent an entire army to deliver lychees to his lover. He tilts his head. I know that story. You add, but no one tells how many soldiers died on the way. He blinks. You survive the evening. The door closes behind him. The women re-enter. They look at you with the kind of mild surprise usually reserved for unbroken plates. You're given a better robe. Slightly warmer tea. Your tag remains the same, but for the first time, it feels earned. That night, back in the shared chamber with the other girls, no one speaks, but they glance your way a little longer. One of them smiles, the sad, slow kind, and somewhere, in a different part of the palace. Your name is written again, this time in a different ink, the kind that doesn't wash off easily. It's always the paper that surprises you. You expected silk scrolls, elaborate seals, golden ink, something poetic. But the page they hand you is rough, fibrous, the kind of scratchy parchment that smells like boiled roots and burnt glue. It's damp in the corners. You half expect it to dissolve between your fingers like disappointment. "Sign here," says the man behind the desk. He doesn't look up. His robes are mustard yellow, crusted with dried candle wax and old ink. His voice has the tone of someone who's processed so many girls. He's forgotten they're people. You glance at the line. There's no name, just a blank space and a blood-red fingerprint square. You'll be known by your chamber title from now on, he says, still not looking at you. No personal names allowed in the grace registry. Too much clutter. Next to him, a woman stirs a bowl of deep blue powder with a thin reed brush. She dips the brush and writes on your parchment in a language you don't fully understand, Tang court script. Almost ceremonial. You try to follow the strokes, but your eyes sting. The ink smells metallic, like coins left in rainwater. This registers your participation in the Chamber of Grace, the man says, yawning. Your time, location, pairings, and results will be entered daily. All pleasure reports will be logged under your title, and your exit, if applicable, will be noted by red thread. If applicable, you ask before you can stop yourself. He does glance at you now, briefly, blinks once. Some girls. Exit other ways. The red thread saves everyone trouble. He slides the parchment toward you. The fingerprint square stares up like a quiet dare. You press your thumb in the ink bowl. It's cold and slightly sticky. Then onto the paper. There's something eerie about watching your identity disappear beneath a blot of plum-coloured dye. You're now officially Evening Lychee, Section 4, Grace Chamber Block B. You have been processed. They give you a jade pendant engraved with your new symbol, a lychee fruit opening at the top, a single pearl inside. It's heavier than expected, strung on red silk cord and worn low between your ribs. You're told to never take it off, not even when sleeping. You're escorted out through a narrow corridor lit by paper lanterns. Their glow is soft, flickering, but the shadows they cast are sharp. Familiar figures pass you by other girls from your selection wave silently. One has already been promoted, her robe glitters, her hair now adorned with coral pins. She doesn't make eye contact anymore. You reach your quarters. They call it a pavilion, but it's just a square room with draped windows, 2 silk mats, a tray of dried lotus seeds, and a bronze mirror that distorts slightly. You catch sight of yourself and realize the powder is caked in the creases around your mouth. You no longer look like a girl. You look like an idea someone drew once, then forgot how to finish. Your roommate enters later that night. She's taller than you, sharper around the eyes. Her tag reads, Winter Fan. She drops her bundle of robes, sighs, and flops onto her mat like she's done this 100 times. She doesn't look at you, just says, if you snore, I'll suffocate you with your own sash. No offence, none taken. You murmur. She lights a stick of plum incense and rests her ankles on a cushion shaped like a frog. They'll start sending people soon, she adds. You'll get a priest first, probably. Or a cousin. They like to warm up with someone unimportant. Your stomach tightens, and after that she shrugs. If you're lucky, someone with power. If you're unlucky, someone with memory. You don't ask what that means. The next morning, a bell chimes outside your window. It's time for posture training. You expected yoga. Instead, is a room full of girls balancing bronze bowls on their heads, while eunuchs correct your foot placement with sticks. Each time you wobble, they mutter things like improper for a vase posture, or your elegance is leaking. One girl faints from holding a smile too long. No one moves to help her. Later that afternoon, you're summoned to the record garden. It sounds peaceful. It is not. There are 6 low tables arranged in a circle. Each has a parchment, a brush, and a censoring eunuch seated behind it. You're handed a document called First Grace Report. It is already filled in your height, weight, scent preferences, compatibility markers, phase of moon at induction. You're to correct any inaccuracies. In red, you scan the document. Under desire response, someone has written reactive, subtle, compliant. You underline compliant and scribble in the margin contextual. The eunuch watching your table raises an eyebrow. Brave. You say nothing. Another girl writes nothing at all. Just signs. Her hand trembles. When you finish, the eunuch collects your parchment and stamps it with a copper seal. He dips the stamp in a bowl of wine. Red. Sticky. It smells like vinegar and spoiled cherries. This gets copied to the chamber's secret archive, he explains, for training, pairing, and strategic pleasure rotations. Strategic, you ask? Pleasure isn't random, he replies. It's logistics. He says this without irony, like someone discussing troop movement. You exit the garden under a rain of pink petals. They are fake. fabric petals dropped from the ceiling by a pulley system, operated by 2 teenage boys in the rafters. One of them winks at you. You don't wink back. You're not sure what it would mean. That evening, your first guest arrives. He wears a mask, not ceremonial, just practical. A soft cloth covering his face from nose to chin, embroidered with a pattern of cranes. He smells like ink and cinnamon. He doesn't speak, just enters, bows, and waits. You remember your training, offer wine, light the incense, sit, don't speak until addressed. Let silence fill the air like warm water. He removes his outer robe, but not the mask. His eyes flicker toward your pendant. "Evening, Lychee," he murmurs. "A little on the nose." You smile faintly. "It wasn't my idea." He doesn't laugh, but his eyes soften. The interaction is short, gentle, transactional. He leaves with a scroll tucked under his arm and a strange look in his eye, something like nostalgia or guilt. You never learn his name, but you find a plum blossom on your windowsill the next morning, carefully folded from rice paper. It smells faintly of wine. Your roommate says nothing, just glances at it and rolls over. At breakfast, you're given a scroll containing your evaluation level 1 charm, acceptable presence, suggested for pairing with literati or mid-tier nobility. You've been ranked. Your stomach sinks. You're now part of a system that measures attraction the way a priest measures rainfall. And somewhere, above your ceiling, another girl is being measured too. You wonder if she's wondering about you. The wine smells too sweet. You've had wine before thin, vinegary stuff poured in provincial tea houses to loosen old tongues. But this is different. This is palace wine, fermented with hawthorn and osmanthus, strained through silk, aged in a buried jar. It coats your tongue like syrup and leaves your lips tingling. You sip it because everyone else is sipping. Not because you're thirsty, not because you want to, but because refusing would make you interesting. And interesting is dangerous. Tonight is your first official banquet as a Grace Girl. It begins with peaches, not fresh ones preserved in honey and stacked like slippery coins in a jade bowl. They're brought out in silence, carried by girls even younger than you, who walk with their eyes fixed on the floor like it's been whispering threats. Your seat is the third in the third row, close enough to the center to be visible, far enough to be ignored. You've been placed here deliberately. Visibility without risk, ornamentation without promise. Around you, the room glows. Gold lacquer panels reflect the lantern light. Silk screens hide musicians who play slow, deliberate notes that drift like opium smoke. Everything is perfectly arranged, even the chaos. A girl to your left coughs once soft, but noticeable. A eunuch appears immediately, hands her a vial of something that smells like crushed mint and copper. She drinks it without a word. The table before you gleams with little dishes, boiled quail eggs painted with edible gold, jellyfish tossed in sesame oil, pork wrapped in lotus leaf, all meticulously arranged, all served in silence. You take only what's safe. The girl to your right doesn't touch a thing. The man in charge of the banquet is seated on a raised platform, behind a curtain of blue silk. You can't see his face clearly, just his silhouette upright, unmoving. He hasn't spoken since entering. He doesn't need to. Everyone here knows the rules. No speaking unless spoken to, no reaching unless invited, no crying, no laughing, no vomiting, and for heaven's sake, no looking bored. You glance around. The other girls perform small gestures, tilts of the head, faint smiles, the delicate flick of a sleeve to catch light. You mirror them clumsily. Your wrist twitches too hard. Your sleeve doesn't catch the light it snags on a chopstick. You freeze. No one reacts. Still, your heart drops like a stone into a well. Halfway through the meal, the wine comes back. This time, it's poured by a boy with hands so steady it feels unnatural. He leans down and whispers just loud enough for your ear. Don't drink too fast. They watch who finishes first. You glance up. He's already gone. The wine sparkles in the cup. You swirl it once, just enough to look appreciative, then set it down again. Across the room, someone laughs. A real, untrained laugh, the kind that starts in the chest and doesn't ask permission. The room freezes. All heads turn toward the sound. It's one of the new girls barely older than 13. She claps a hand to her mouth too late. The man behind the blue silk raises one finger. Two eunuchs arrive wordlessly. They escort her out by the elbows, not roughly, not cruelly, but with a finality that burns worse than violence. The musicians resume playing, one note higher, as if erasing her with key changes. You don't look after her. You've learned. The courses continue. Each dish more elaborate, more absurd duck tongues arranged to resemble flower petals, translucent noodles dyed with beetle extract, a gelatinous cube that glows faintly in the candlelight. Someone whispers, "Dragon's tear jelly." You pretend not to hear. You eat what you must, sip slowly, smile when required. At the end of the meal, a final dish is brought out. It's a cup of sweet soup lotus seed, white fungus, red dates, innocent enough, but floating in it is a single petal, a peach blossom, winter fan, seated behind you, exhales audibly. Her breath trembles. "What is it you whisper?" She doesn't answer. She just drinks it all in one go. You do the same. It's warm. Too warm. It slips down your throat like syrup and settles heavily in your belly. The room tilts slightly. Not enough to cause alarm, just enough to feel like the floor's breathing. The curtain shifts. The man on the platform finally speaks. Let the pairing begin. The girls around you stiffen. A eunuch walks down the center aisle, calling names, not real names, but chamber titles. Ink petal, warm peach, evening lychee. Your head snaps up. You stand. Carefully. Not too fast. You try to breathe through your feet. You're led through a side corridor. The air here is colder, drier. The torches flicker strangely. One sputters as you pass. The room they bring you to is small. Red curtains, low table, a brazier of burning cedar. You are alone for exactly one breath. Then he enters. You don't recognize him. Late 20s, tall. His robes bear no insignia, but his boots are too clean for a clerk, and his ring is carved with a family crest. He does not speak. He sits. You pour the wine. He watches your hands. When you glance up, his eyes are already on your pendant. "Evening lychee," he says softly. That's a warning, not a name. You don't reply. He drinks, doesn't grimace. Most men grimace. "You're from Yanzhou," he says. Your accent gives you away. You panic for a moment. Had you spoken aloud? Did you say something without realizing? "No," he murmurs. "You blinked when I said it. That's enough." You nod slowly. He sighs. "Do you know why you're here?" You almost shake your head. But you stop. Because this isn't a test of knowledge. It's a test of obedience. You place both hands on your lap and meet his gaze. He watches you for a long time, then smiles. "I like this one," he says. To no one. To the air. Maybe. He stands. Walks once around you. Doesn't touch. Doesn't even reach. Then he leaves. You're alone again. The door clicks. Outside, a maid appears with a hot towel and a sugar plum. "You passed," she says. "For now." She hands you a folded piece of paper. You open it. Pairing record. Acceptable. Observe further. You return to your room on legs that feel like boiled bamboo. Winter Fan is waiting. She says nothing. Just moves her mat half a step closer to yours. That night, you dream of peaches. But when you bite into one, it's full of ink. There are no clocks here, no bells, no chimes, no hourglasses. Time in the chamber moves differently. It melts. You wake up when they say. You eat when they bring food. You bathe when they lead you to the stone pool that smells like powdered pearl and mouldy sandalwood. You sleep only when your thoughts stop screaming. And today, they say it's time to play. It starts with a game board. Square. Lacquered. Intricate as a betrayal. It sits in the center of a private salon surrounded by gold lattices thin enough to see through, thick enough to obscure intent. You and 6 other girls are seated around it on cushions. A single eunuch presides, robe pristine, smile pasted on like cheap wallpaper. He calls it the palace arrangement. You're told to treat it with seriousness, not reverence, not strategy seriousness, as though a wrong move might rearrange your fate, because it might. Each girl is handed a set of tokens carved ivory figurines. Yours are shaped like peonies. Others get plum blossoms, turtles, fans. Each set represents a faction within the harem. Though no one explains the rules in full, you're expected to infer them, just like everything else. You glance around. Winterfan sits across from you. She raises one eyebrow slightly, either in warning or amusement. To her left is a new girl, still pink in the cheeks, whose hand shakes as she places her first token. The game begins. The goal, it seems, is to arrange your tokens around the Imperial Center, avoiding banishment tiles, gaining favor tiles, building alliances, except sometimes alliances collapse, and sometimes favor turns out to be a trap. The board changes mid-play, tiles flip, rules shift. No one knows why. It's worse than playing Monopoly with 5 lawyers and no banker. After an hour, one girl is eliminated. Her final token lands on a tile marked with a snake. The eunuch claps gently. "Exiled to Lotus Terrace," he announces. Await reassignment. The girl is escorted away. Her slippers make no sound on the floor. You learn quickly the point of the game is not to win, but to keep playing. Make no bold moves. Do not dominate. Never let your pieces get too close to the Emperor's token. It implies ambition. Ambition implies death. By the second round, you've mastered the art of losing just enough to be safe. Then comes the favor die. The eunuch places it in the center of the board, a small cube made of polished jade with sides marked by symbols: fan, hairpin, mirror, veil, comb, fire. You're told to roll. You do. It lands on fire. There's a pause. The eunuch leans in, his smile widening like a crack in porcelain. "Fire," he says. "A cleansing challenge." He points to a narrow door behind the lattice. "Enter, you rise." The other girls avoid your gaze. Behind the door is a much smaller room. Circular. Empty but for a single brazier burning red hot, and a bowl of clear oil. A woman stands beside it, tall, expressionless, her hands hidden in her sleeves. "You will walk," she says. While balancing this, she hands you a shallow dish filled to the rim with oil. The edges are paper thin, the slightest tremble, and it will spill. You stare at her, where she points to the circular stone path lining the brazier. 3 rounds. If you finish without spilling, your favor increases. If you spill, your charm rating is reduced. If you refuse, well, no one refuses, Guy. You lift the bowl. It's warm, slick, smells faintly of ginseng and punishment. You take your first step. The stone is hot, not burn your feet hot, but uncomfortable. You try to focus only on the dish, but the flames flicker in the corner of your vision. The heat plays tricks. Your fingers sweat. The oil shimmers. 1 round, no spill. 2 rounds, a drop shifts. You hold your breath. 3rd round, halfway through, someone outside coughs. You flinch. The oil wobbles. A drop teeters on the lip of the dish. You stop walking. The heat pulses around you. Your knees ache. Your arms are shaking. You exhale slowly and finish. You return the bowl. The woman inspects it, tilts it slightly, nods once. You're dismissed. Back in the salon, the other girls look surprised. One even smiles. The eunuch taps the board. Evening lychee gains 1 rank. You have no idea what that means. Later that evening, you're summoned to a new chamber. It's narrower, richer. The windows are shaped like lotus petals. The incense here smells not of cedar or plum, but of old wood and wet silk. A courtesan is waiting. She looks you over like she's deciding whether you're real. "You're being considered," she says. For the lattice nights, you nod as if you understand. She approaches and plucks a stray thread from your sleeve. You'll be expected to entertain discreetly, with precision. The guests will not be named. Some may wear masks. Some may speak in riddles. Some may ask questions with their hands. Your stomach flips. But first, she continues, you must learn to pour tea while lying down. You blink. She does not smile. Begin. The training takes hours. You lie on one side. You must pour into a cup placed behind you, without turning. The tea is hot. Your wrist aches. When you spill, you're told to start over. When you succeed, you're told, now do it without blinking. By the end, your sleeve is soaked, your arm numb. The courtesan claps once. Good. You'll survive the first round. Most don't. She exits without ceremony. You return to your quarters exhausted. Winterfan is polishing her nails with a silk square. She doesn't ask where you were. She doesn't have to. Lattice nights, she asks. You nod. She tosses you a tiny jar of ointment. For the burns, they don't show, but they hurt like hell. You don't ask how she knows. You lie down, ointment stinging on your wrist, the smell of ginseng still clinging to your fingers. Outside your window, wind rattles the gold lattice. You close your eyes and dream of games where the rules don't change mid-play. The first thing they teach you about eunuchs is not to fear them. The second thing is to fear them more than anyone. You learn this not from instruction, but from observation, from the way even high-ranking concubines straighten their spines when a eunuch enters, from the way palace guards step aside without eye contact, from the way servants whisper their names with the same tone reserved for ghosts or minor gods. You meet Cheng on your 7th day in the Grace Wing. He appears without warning during your afternoon fan posture drill, a miserable routine in which you're required to stand perfectly still, one arm extended, holding a fully opened fan for exactly the length of one guqin movement. You've just passed the halfway point, elbow numb, fingers trembling when a door creaks. No one turns to look, but everyone knows it's him. Cheng moves like polished wood, graceful, but heavy with purpose. His robes are the deep shade of old copper, edged with patterns that shimmer faintly like breath on a mirror. His face is powdered, yes, but precisely not to mimic beauty, but to erase it. You can't tell how old he is. You doubt anyone can. He doesn't speak at first. He doesn't have to. He walks the line of girls slowly. His eyes are still but probing, like someone peering through water to spot a fish he already intends to gut. When he stops in front of you, your arm is screaming. He studies your grip on the fan, then, very gently, he adjusts your elbow by 2 inches. That, he says, is the difference between grace and desperation. He walks on. Later, you're summoned to a private hall, no name, just movement hall 6. There. Cheng waits with a scroll in one hand and a long, thin rod in the other. Strip, he says. Not cruelly, not lecherously, just plainly, like asking someone to take off muddy shoes. You comply. He walks around you slowly, making soft notes on the scroll. Then he taps your ankle with the rod. Balance acceptable. Left hip too tight. Right shoulder compensating. You walk as though carrying guilt. You don't ask what that means. He corrects your posture for an hour, spine straight, chin lowered, elbows relaxed. At one point, he gently presses his thumb between your shoulder blades. Hold from here, he says. It works. By the end, your muscles ache in places you didn't know had opinions. He hands you a flask of warm tea, bitter, slightly salty. Drink, he says. Rest. Tomorrow we begin motion training. You don't ask if this is a promotion or punishment, because with Cheng, it's always both. The next day, you're led to a mirrored chamber, walls polished so smooth that reflections blur into each other. Cheng stands in the center, arms behind his back. Show me how you enter a room, he says. You hesitate. No. Show me how you enter a room when you know someone important is watching. You take a step. He shakes his head. Too cautious. You look guilty. You try again. Too proud. You'll threaten them. Again. Better. But now your hands say you're hiding something, or this goes on for hours. Walking, turning, sitting, rising. All of it examined under a lens more exacting than you've ever endured. When you finally collapse onto the cushion, Cheng sits beside you unexpectedly close. He pours tea into 2 cups. Do you know why I do this? He asks. You shake your head. Because you're not trained to please a man. That part's easy. What's hard is pleasing everyone else in the room at the same time. You frown. He sips. The handmaid who prepares your robe. The guard who opens the door. The concubine who wanted the role you now have. If they all like you even a little, you survive longer. He places the tea back on the tray. Forget that, and you'll be gone before the next moon. That night, you don't sleep. You rehearse every motion in your head, the turn, the bow, the seated smile, the soft refusal, the slower refusal. By morning, your body aches like you've been at war, and Cheng is waiting. He brings a robe you've never seen, lavender with black trim, embroidered with phoenix feathers in midnight thread. It isn't beautiful. It's commanding. You'll wear this tonight, he says, for what the midnight round. You've heard whispers about it. Small, secret gatherings arranged not by rank but by curiosity, where the usual rules are bent, where lesser nobles pretend to be poets, and poets pretend to be in love. Cheng leads you there himself. The chamber is round, lit only by suspended lanterns shaped like moons. each dyed a different shade: crimson, gold, indigo, ash. The light bathes everything in dream. There are cushions, wine, instruments no one plays, and 4 men, all masked, all silent. You're one of 5 girls summoned. Winterfan is here too. Her robe is white as snow and her expression unreadable. Chung instructs each of you to choose a lantern colour. You choose indigo. He nods, slightly approving. You're told to sit, not too close to any guest. Let them approach. You obey. The game is not formal. There are no rules spoken aloud, but the air thickens with unspoken terms. A masked man gestures to you, offers a bowl of fruit. You take a piece something golden and soft and place it gently in his palm. You do not feed him. That would be too forward. He smiles under the mask. You've passed the first test. Another man asks you a question in verse. You respond with silence, then hum the note his poem implies. Someone laughs, not mockingly, genuinely. Later, a third man sits beside you and says nothing, just breathes. For 10 minutes, you do not move. That, too, is passing. When the gathering ends, Chung escorts you out. Well done, he says. You bow, exhausted. Then he adds, next time, try not to flinch when you hear your real name. You freeze. You hadn't realized anyone used it. Chung's eyes narrow just slightly. The man with the poem knew you from before. From Yunju. Yes, you nod. He tilts his head. Be careful. Memory is contagious, and there are no antidotes in the chamber. You walk back to your quarters in silence. Your robe is wrinkled. Your mouth tastes faintly of sweet smoke and iron. Winterfan is already asleep, her lantern extinguished. You lie down beside her, staring at the ceiling, and you wonder not how long you'll last, but how much longer you'll remember who you were before all this. ChatGPT Jun Noi. It begins the same way every morning, with a bell that sounds exactly like a spoon tapping porcelain. Pleasant, unthreatening, which makes it worse. You rise before your body is ready. The silk sheet clings to your skin like a second layer of shame. Outside your window, the courtyard is misty, pale as steamed rice, and already crawling with attendants. It's audition day. You haven't been told what's being auditioned. No one ever is. But everyone knows. Every move in this palace is a test, every smile, every gesture, every sound you do or don't make. And today, there will be inspectors. You're led to the dressing chamber before sunrise. The walls there are made of clouded glass, so your reflection comes back half-finished, like a dream you barely remember. There's a tray waiting for you, underthings of raw silk, a folded robe dyed in powdered hibiscus, and a comb shaped like a crane. You don't choose your outfit, you're assigned it, like a character in a play whose script is constantly changing and may include surprise death scenes. The makeup girl doesn't speak. She tilts your face gently, brushes your cheek with crushed pearl, paints your lips in moon orchid, a shade described as seductive but submissive. Once you're ready, you're taken to the orchid hall. It's colder than you remember. A long rectangular room, tiled in black and gold. 2 rows of cushions face inward. In the centre is a narrow pathway, a raised strip of polished wood no wider than your own foot. You recognise the setup. Now, this is not a place for performances. It's a place for evaluations. The women arrive one by one. Not men, women. Inspectors from the Office of Internal Harmony, middle-aged, robed in plain silk, hair pulled tight, each carrying a lacquered tablet and an expression like a sharpening stone. You and 13 other girls are told to kneel in a row. No talking, no moving. The lead inspector speaks in a low, clear voice. Today, we assess articulation, obedience, and presence. You will each be observed in walking, serving, reciting, and responsive silence. Responsive silence. A phrase so uniquely awful you could frame it. You are called third. You step forward onto the pathway, slicker than it looks. Your task: walk to the end, pour tea from the highest shelf without standing on your toes, and recite 3 lines of poetry chosen not by you, but by the inspector, who will mouth them silently. You're expected to recognize them by movement alone. You walk slowly, count your breaths. At the shelf, your fingers tremble. The teapot is heavier than it should be filled to the brim. No spills allowed. You lift it. silently apologizing to every nerve in your wrist. The inspector mouths 3 words. You squint. It's an obscure Tang poem, one you read once during posture training while pretending not to cry. You recite the lines. Your voice is soft, not shaky. They don't nod, they don't frown. They just make a note. Then the part you dread, you kneel, pour tea for the inspector, fold your hands, and wait. This is the responsive silence. You're told to listen without reacting, to receive criticism without facial movement, to look pleasant, but not eager, still, but not vacant. It's like being asked to breathe underwater with perfect posture. The inspector taps her fan against her knee, watching you. You blink too often, she says, but your chin is strong, it makes up for it. You say nothing. You want to scream, how can a chin be strong? Instead, you bow deeply and step back. The rest of the morning is a parade of silent humiliations. The girl next to you forgets her lines and is dismissed with the phrase, best suited for shadow duties. Another spills tea and is quietly reassigned to unseen service, a term everyone understands to mean storage clerks or messenger girls. A soft exile. After the last girl bows, the inspectors gather. They speak in low tones. They might as well be discussing garden renovations. Eventually, a scroll is read aloud. Selected for proximity assignments, winter fan, evening lychee, azure bell. Your name is read second. Your reward a temporary posting inside the Jade Rotunda, the inner sanctum of the Empress Dowager herself. You're told this is an honor. You're told this means visibility. You're not told what happened to the last girl who served there. The same afternoon, you're given new robes. Not new as in fresh, just new to you. The hem is frayed. The inside pocket is stained with something pale and powdery. A maid ties your sash too tight and says, she likes low voices, speak like you're sad. You're escorted through 3 layers of security. Your pendant is inspected. Your scroll is stamped. You're led through corridors where the air smells like old chrysanthemums and disinfected power. Inside the rotunda, everything is quiet, not empty, just muffled, like sound is being swallowed by the weight of history. The Empress Dowager isn't in sight. She never is. She speaks through a chain of proxies, each with slightly sharper eyebrows and slightly more irritated voices. Your job, stand beside the incense table. Refill it when it burns low. Don't sneeze. You stand for hours. During that time, 2 nobles arrive to pay respects. You're not allowed to look at them. You recognize neither. You do hear them comment on the incense blend, though too strong, says one. Smells like morning, says another. You try not to breathe too deeply. The Empress never appears, but a note is passed to you near the end of the shift. Written in brush on blue paper, evening lychee. Observed, retain, reassigned to petal quarters for refinement. You want to feel proud, you want to feel anything. Instead, you feel like a pawn that's been nudged forward 1 square. That night, Winterfan finds you alone in the garden corridor. She's been reassigned too. She smokes from a tiny pipe made of ivory. They're moving us up, she says. You nod. They'll let us rest right before they ring us out, she adds, smiling. You watch the smoke curl around the moonlight and wonder how long before the next audition, before your next performance in silence, before your chin, your voice, your spine are measured again and again and again, until the person being measured has nothing left but the shape of the mold she was told to fit. The first time you feel her, she doesn't appear. She saturates. It's late past curfew, long after the courtyards have gone silent and the roving inspectors have extinguished their lanterns. The breeze that snakes in through the carved wood lattice smells of lychee again, but not the sticky sweetness you're used to. This is sharper, wilted, like fruit left too long in a dish, collapsing under its own perfume. You're lying awake in the petal quarters, the room assigned to promising figures of feminine poise, according to the eunuch who handed you your silk pillow and walked out without explaining what that meant. The ceiling here is carved with scenes of mountain rivers and heavenly maidens, but the wood is cracked, and something in the corner smells faintly like mildew and roses. That's when you hear it, not footsteps, not music, breathing, just beyond the far silk curtain. Too soft to be human, too present not to be real. You sit up. The air is thick, humming with something old. Then, a clink, not loud, not aggressive. The sound of jewelry brushing against bone. A sound you've heard before, in the galleries where they display the ornaments once worn by Yang Guifei, the emperor's most beloved consort, a name spoken half in awe, half in caution. They say she ruined a dynasty with her skin, that she drank plum wine for breakfast and bathed in scented milk and wore her sadness like a veil, that the emperor sent entire armies just to fetch her fruit, that when the rebellion came, the palace guards demanded her death to restore order, that her ghost refused to leave. You know the rumours, everyone does. But you never expected her to haunt this hallway. It's too lowly, too cramped. This isn't the chamber of legend, but the scent grows stronger. Lychee, white musk, a drop of something sour. You rise quietly. Your feet touch the tile. Cold, always cold. You move to the curtain, every step an apology. Then you see it, a shadow. Not tall, not small, just wrong. Standing in the hallway, framed by moonlight, her sleeves too long, her hair unbound, her head tilted like she's listening to music no one else can hear. You don't scream, you don't breathe, and then she vanishes, not like smoke, like a sigh. Behind her, in the space where she stood, something glitters faintly. A hairpin, jade, in the shape of a plum blossom, darkened with age. You've seen replicas of it in the scrolls. This isn't a replica. Your hand shakes as you pick it up. It's warm. Winterfan appears in the doorway. Her voice is a whisper made of thorns. You saw her too. You nod. She steps into the moonlight, eyes wide. She shows herself to the ones who are being watched. Closely. You want to laugh, or cry, or ask how she knows that. Instead, you ask, what does she want? Winterfan looks down the hallway. To be remembered, or forgotten properly. The next day, the court physician visits, not because of Yang Guifei, because everyone in the petal quarters reported bad sleep, and in this place, sleep is not a luxury, it's a measure of compliance. Too little, and they assume guilt. The physician is a Taoist monk named Wen. He wears 6 rings on one hand, each carved with talismans. He smells like bamboo vinegar and secrets. He doesn't look at your face. He checks your pulse, your breath, your aura. Then he asks, have you experienced a chill recently? One that does not come from air? You say nothing. He frowns. You should take the mulberry root tonic. It grounds the spirit, prevents echoing. Echoing! He scribbles on a scroll, rolls it tight, and seals it with wax stamped in the shape of a lotus seed. Do not walk alone near the water pavilion, he adds. If she finds you again, say her name aloud, 3 times. You don't ask what happens if you don't. That night, you sleep poorly again. In the mirror near your bed, your reflection is slower than your body. When you turn your head, it delays, and you smell her before you see her. This time, she's nearer. You sit up, hair sticking to your neck, breath caught mid-rib. She's crouching, not regal, not weeping. Crouching, like a child lost in a garden. She's holding something in her hands. A bowl, no, a mirror. She turns it toward you, and for a moment, just a moment, you don't see your face in it. You see hers, painted cheeks, full lips, eyes that look exactly like someone watching herself be erased. You blink. She's gone. The next morning, a new girl arrives, fresh-faced, still pale from the journey. She's placed in the bed opposite yours. At breakfast, she asks, have you ever seen the statue of Yang Guifei in the West Wing? You shake your head. She leans in. They say it weeps when someone is about to vanish. You pause, vanish. She nods. Not killed, not punished, just unremembered. No scroll, no record, not even a name. You don't finish your rice. Later that day, a message arrives on Blue Silk Evening Lychee summoned to the Peachgate Pavilion at moonrise. Private recitation required. Mirror posture training expected. You ask Chung what that means. He grimaces. Someone wants to see if you can become a reflection. You're dressed in a robe of translucent silk and pale as fog. You're told not to wear perfume. You're told to sit near the pond, under the lantern shaped like a swan, and wait. The man who arrives does not give his name. His voice is thin, familiar. He speaks of poetry. His favourite line. The ghost remembers the face that forgot her. You nod. He asks you to dance. Not with your feet. with your eyes. You do. He says, "You remind me of her." You don't ask who. You already know. When he leaves, he forgets his fan. It bears a seal, the same plum blossom as the hairpin. That night, you don't sleep at all. You walk to the garden, alone, against orders. You stand beneath the plum tree and you say her name 3 times. The wind does not stir, but somewhere, far in the halls, you hear bracelets clink. Not in warning, in thanks. You expect a doctor, you get a priest. You expect medicine, you get incense. You expect privacy, you get a room with walls that hum. They call it the Harmony Clinic, but the word clinic is generous. It's a building tucked behind the lotus grove, with stone eaves shaped like open mouths and a door that doesn't creak when it opens, it exhales. You've passed it before, always walking faster. Now you've been summoned. Inside. The light is the wrong temperature. It feels filtered, like someone replaced sunlight with melted chalk. The walls are made of bleached wood, the kind used for coffin linings or prayer wheels. It doesn't smell like sickness here. It smells like someone trying to erase it. A monk greets you. Shaved head, bare feet, wrists wrapped in red silk prayer cords. His face is unreadable, but his eyes move like he already knows everything about you. "You are evening lychee," he says. Not a question. You nod. He doesn't return the nod. Instead, he turns. Follow. You do. The corridor is long and too quiet. Not empty quiet. Listening quiet. Like every door you pass contains someone breathing shallowly. Like you're walking through a mouthful of secrets. You glance to the left. A thin panel of lattice barely noticeable vibrates subtly. Someone is behind it. Watching. Always watching. You're led into room 3. No bed. No desk. Just a mat. A screen. And a bowl of water with white camellia petals floating like punctuation marks. The monk gestures. Disrobe to your shift. Sit. Spine upright. Tongue flat. Breath even. You comply. The way people comply with customs they don't understand but suspect are binding. Another monk enters. This one carries a thin bamboo tube longer than your arm, sealed with copper caps on either end. When he unrolls it, dozens of slender rods spill onto the mat. Some are tipped in jade, others in lacquered bone. A few glint with something darker obsidian, perhaps, or iron. These are attunement markers, he explains. We'll begin with your baseline harmony. You're not asked if you consent. You're not expected to. The rods are placed along your arms, shoulders, collarbones, down the inside of your ankles. Each one hums faintly like the buzz of a string being tuned. Then the questions begin, but they don't speak them. They hum them. The first monk begins with a low sound somewhere between a vibration and a note. It moves through the room like warm air. You feel it before you hear it. Your skin tightens. A muscle behind your ear twitches. The rods vibrate. The second monk watches. He nods. Sensitive. Right lung. Fear response activated, but manageable. More sounds. One like a gong, one like temple bells drowned underwater. They don't talk to you. They talk to the map of you that they're making in real time through pulses, through sound, through your body's involuntary reactions. It's like being unwrapped slowly, carefully, and without permission. Then it changes. Now, the first monk says from behind the screen, imagine someone's hand on your back, right where your shoulder blades meet. Your breath catches. Say your name. You do. Again. But this time, pretend you believe it. You do. Your voice breaks. Now, he says, say your name for someone who doesn't want you to disappear. You do. It comes out softer and somehow fuller. The second monk writes something on a thin piece of bark with a brush dipped in saltwater ink. She is receptive, he says. Emotion stored in diaphragm. Resistance in jaw, but baseline is moldable. You don't know if you should be relieved. Next is the mirror breath test. You're instructed to lie on your side, facing a screen of polished copper so smooth it distorts you slightly like a dream trying to remember your face. They light a thin coil of lotus incense. It curls upward in perfect spirals. Your job breathe in when the smoke curls clockwise, out when it flutters left. They watch your ribs, your neck, your heartbeat in your throat. They ask 3 questions. Who do you hope is watching you? What part of your body holds the lie? What memory do you still dance for? You don't answer with words, just breath, movement, sweat. After 12 minutes, they remove the rods. You think it's over. It's not. You're taken to a second room, darker, colder. This one has no furniture, just a mark on the floor, a perfect red circle. You are told to stand inside it. Another monk appears, older. His hands are ink-stained, his eyes clouded like storm glass. He doesn't speak at all, just walks around you, slowly. His hand hovers inches from your shoulder, your jaw, your chest. Then he speaks one word, ghosting. The others murmur. They write again. You finally speak. What does that mean? The old monk smiles, faintly. It means you've begun to disappear in the right places. Your body still exists, but yourself, your edges are dissolving, exactly as designed. Back in the corridor, you see another girl leaving room 5. She's walking on her own, but wrong. As if her joints are arguing with each other. Her eyes don't focus. Her lips are moving, soundless. You move to help her. The monk stops you. She's undergoing reflection drift, interference between self and role. He hands you a scroll. You open it. It's a chart. A drawing of your body simplified, stylized, almost beautiful. Lines map your pleasure meridians. Shaded regions highlight reactive zones. Tiny brushstrokes define your expressive delay ratios. There's a diagram labeled Emotional Memory Score. Yours is marked 82% residual. Recommend gradual induction. You don't understand most of it. At the bottom, one red sentence: silk study pairing approved. Monitor for ghosting and tether fatigue. You fold the scroll. Your hands are cold. That night, Winterfan doesn't say anything when you return. She just glances up and moves her tea to make room for your scroll. You sit. What is tether fatigue, you ask quietly. She thinks for a long time. It's when you remember who you are at the wrong moment. You nod. You understand too well. Did they give you a mantra, she asks. You shake your head. She pours you tea. They will. Then she adds, don't say it out loud unless you mean it. It has teeth. You try to sleep. You don't. At some point, the wind shifts outside your lattice window, and you hear it again. The breathing. Not yours. Not Winterfan's. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate, from behind the wall, like someone waiting for your next exhale, like someone taking notes, and for the first time, you wonder, are the monks studying you for them, or are the men behind the screen studying the monks studying you? Or worst of all, have you started studying yourself through their eyes? The contract is printed on paper so smooth it feels wet. You're handed it with both ceremony and disinterest by a eunuch with black lacquered nails and a small coffee covers too late. He slides it toward you across a jade desk, like he's returning a forgotten comb. The room smells like mint tea and freshly scraped inkstones. This confirms your placement, he says. Please read before agreeing. Then seal with a drop of blood or forgetfulness. You're not sure if that last part is a joke. He doesn't smile. You scan the top line, affirmation of intimacy. Responsibility silk tier, provisional pairing category. Below it, your new designation, evening lychee, emotional calibration profile, 2B. There's a red stamp with the character for useful. Your pulse starts to echo behind your ribs. You read the clauses: I appear when summoned, 2, withdraw when dismissed, 3, touch only when permitted, evul, listen without promise, V, forget without protest, and then, beneath a long row of complex characters, something simpler, almost kind. What you give will not be remembered, but it will be appreciated. That's the only sentence not written in passive voice. The eunuch clears his throat again. You ask, what happens if I don't sign? He blinks. Oh, you won't be punished. You'll just be reassigned to the textile counting room or the garden soil audit. Someplace quiet, forgettable. He says forgettable with a sort of professional pity, like he's seen too many girls forget themselves on purpose, just to avoid what comes after a signature. Your hand hovers. The ink is silver, stored in a shallow bowl beside a writing brush made of white fox hair. The contract must be signed with this brush. The final seal is a single drop of blood, drawn from your finger with a needle dipped in peach wine. This is meant to soften the sting. It doesn't. The silver ink reflects your face as you sign elegant, blurred, almost familiar. Then the needle, a sharp kiss at your fingertip. One drop, precise as moonlight, darkens the seal. The paper absorbs it with a small sigh. You are now contracted. Your first task is fitting. You're brought to the chamber of calming, an octagonal room draped in gauze so sheer you can see the outlines of others, moving through their own tasks like fish in a shared bowl. You are paired not with a man, but a letter. It sits on a pedestal in the centre of the room. You're told read it aloud, slowly, as if the writer were in front of you. The letter is old. The ink has faded, but the words ache to the woman I saw once behind the silk screen, who held the teacup like it was a prayer. I dream of your hands, of their gentleness, of their refusal. I do not know your name, but I believe you once knew mine. You pause. The eunuch behind the curtain says, continue. If I could have touched your shoulder then, I might have stayed. If I'd spoken, you might have answered. But I was too noble to beg, too frightened to remember. You close the letter. Your voice has changed. It feels fuller, as though speaking those words filled a part of you that had gone quiet. The eunuch marks something down. Later that day, you're asked to attend binding training. You assume it's metaphorical. It is not. You're taught how to tie silk cords in 13 different configurations, some decorative, some restraining, some symbolic. Each knot has a name. The rain knot implies gratitude. The ghost knot implies release. The cricket knot is used for silence. You practice on a mannequin, whose arms are slightly too human. The cords leave no marks, but your fingers remember. Winter Fan passes you in the corridor, sees your rope burns, and nods. You're in stage 2 now, she says. You ask, what's stage 3? She doesn't answer. That evening, you're given your first living partner. You're not told his name, only that he is a minister of records widowed, melancholic, known for crying during poetry readings. You're not to seduce, only soothe. You find him sitting cross-legged on a floor cushion, eyes closed, a cup of cold tea untouched beside him. He smells like old ink and sandalwood. He doesn't look at you when you enter. He just gestures to the space beside him. You sit. There's a small bowl of persimmons on the tray. You peel one for him, slowly, carefully. Let the juice slip onto the napkin without staining the table. He speaks without opening his eyes. Do you know how many names I've written today? You don't? 72. You nod. All girls, all contracts, all designed to be forgotten the moment the ink dries. You place the peeled persimmon in front of him, and for a second, his hand lingers over yours. Thank you, he says. Then, after a long pause, say something kind, but not real. You think for a moment, then say, you look like someone who dreams with both eyes. He opens one of them, smiles faintly. That's perfect. You leave the room without touching him again. Back in your quarters, a gift awaits, a comb, ivory, inlaid with silver plum blossoms. You ask Winter Fan if this is normal. She shakes her head. He'll ask for you again. You'll be moved to his rotation. Is that good? She shrugs. It's not boring. Then adds, just don't let them gift you shoes. Shoes mean ownership. You lie down, stare at the ceiling, and realize somehow, without even noticing, you've signed away your right to ask who is using your kindness. All that remains is how well you perform it. At midnight, the silver ink on your contract flares under moonlight. It shimmers once, then fades. You reach for it, touch the paper. It's cold, but your name is warm, like someone's still whispering it from behind a curtain. You wake up with your heart already beating like you're late for something important and unholy. The moon is red. That's the first thing your eyes notice through the paper lattice. Not the soft red of lacquer or lipstick, but the deep, sullen crimson of blood diluted in water, stirred and left to settle. It pools in the sky like a bad omen that no one dares name. Winter Fan is already awake. She sits at the edge of her mat, brushing her hair with the same rhythm she uses when she's trying not to think about something. They've called you, she says without looking at you. Your throat is dry. For what she lifts her gaze, expression unreadable. The garden of prolonging. You've heard that phrase before. always in hushed tones, as though speaking it too loudly might open a hidden door. No one calls it by what it really is. It's not a garden. There are no flowers, and nothing grows there that isn't trimmed into shape. A eunuch arrives moments later. You don't hear his footsteps, only the faint rustle of his sleeves and the sound of your own breath catching in your ribs. He hands you a blindfold. It's dyed with crushed hibiscus petals, still faintly damp. You can smell the tang of iron underneath the perfume, like fruit gone slightly off, or blood on silk. He says nothing. You're not told to put it on. It's not necessary. You do. You count your steps as he leads you. 6 turns. 1 downward stair. Another hall that feels damper, older. The scent shifts chrysanthemums steeped in rice wine, incense past its prime. A faint draught brushes your calves like fingers trying to remember you. You pass beneath something, maybe a low lintel, maybe a spell. Then the air changes, warm, alive. You hear them before you see them, slow breathing, bodies too still to be sleeping, hushed murmurs that never quite become voices. The blindfold is untied, and there it is, the gardener prolonging, a circular chamber, candlelit and hushed. The walls are lined with gauze veils painted with scenes of mountain mist and cranes mid-flight, every image just blurry enough to feel like a fading dream. The floors are padded in embroidered silk. Someone has scattered petals plum peach blossom, osmanthus in spirals across the floor. You suspect it means something, but no one will tell you what. People sit on the floor, spaced apart in perfect circles. Their robes don't match, but their posture does. Straight backs, folded hands, eyes half lowered. Men, women. A few whose faces don't resolve into any particular shape, all waiting. In the centre is a low dais, draped in red silk ropes, braided and looped into a canopy like a spiderweb designed by a poet. Beneath it, cushions, bowls of tea, a small lacquer table. You're guided toward it. A voice speaks from above, not loud, but full of echo, as though poured from a cracked bronze bell. Name your voice feels small. Evening lychee. Designation. You clear your throat. Emotional calibration profile. 2B. Binding clause acknowledged, a nod. The voice continues, as if reading from a very old scroll. Let the offering arrive with breath unbroken. Let her forget her beginning. Let her become the pause between command and desire. You kneel. A girl maybe 16, maybe 60 moves beside you and begins to comb your hair with a brush made of lacquered wood and fox bristle. She doesn't speak. She doesn't blink. Her hands smell like camphor and burnt cloves. Another wipes your hands with a heated cloth that smells faintly of ginseng. A third places a circle of white salt around your ankles. You do not move. The ritual has begun. He arrives. Not the emperor, not even a prince. A minister of memory, a man who speaks nothing aloud unless it is worth archiving. You've heard the rumours. He keeps no scrolls, no ledgers. He simply remembers, perfectly, awfully. He kneels opposite you on the dais. His robes are dark, lined with charcoal embroidery. His face is unreadable, like a stone left out in the rain. He doesn't look at you. He listens to you. A monk steps forward and presents a lacquer tray. On it, a crimson silk cord, a tiny figurine of a crane carved from salt, a teacup filled with translucent ink. The minister lifts the cord, but he doesn't bind you, he asks, voice quiet but edged. Would you allow me the shape of your memory? You hesitate. Not because you don't want to, because you're not sure what shape your memory even is anymore. Still, you nod. He wraps one end of the silk cord around your wrist. He loops the other loosely around his own. It's not a knot, it's a tether. The candlelight dances. He speaks not in poetry, not in command, but in something deeper, something closer to remembering while you're still inside the thing you're trying to forget. I once knew a woman who wept when it snowed, he says. I once wept when someone mistook my silence for grace. You answer. I watched a plum blossom fall and wished it had hit me. I stepped on one once. I felt guilty for days. The teacup between you trembles slightly. He reaches for it, dips his fingers, draws a symbol on your palm, a curve and a slash. It means friction, or possibly awakening. The meanings overlap. Then he lifts the crane-shaped salt figurine. This, he says, is your forgetting. He He places it in your hand. Bite. You do. It snaps between your teeth, coarse, bitter, sharp, like tears that dried before they could be cried. Your spine straightens, your throat tightens, a warmth blooms in your ribs. Not comfort, but clarity. He leans forward, presses his forehead to yours. Thank you, he whispers. Then, louder, her tether is confirmed. The monks nod. The cord is removed. The salt circle around your ankles is swept away. You rise, legs uncertain. Everything feels louder now, your heartbeat, the rustle of silk, the memory of the girl combing your hair. You're led out, back in your quarters. Winter fan waits with tea already poured. You sit, your fingers tremble. What just happened, you whisper. She sips her tea. It's the first thread, she says. They loop it through your chest gently, so you won't flinch when they start tightening the net. You ask, is it always like that? She hesitates. Then no. You want to sleep. You don't. You want to cry. You can't. You lie on your mat and watch the candle burn low, and somewhere, deep in the building, you hear ropes tightening, not metaphorical ones, actual silk cords being pulled through iron rings, preparing for the next offering, the next tether, and in your half-sleep, you dream of a version of yourself kneeling in the garden once more, only this time. No one holds the other end of the cord. You're tethered to air, to echo, to the idea that if someone pulls hard enough, you might finally vanish. He doesn't blink, not once. That's the first thing you notice about the Emperor. He sits behind a carved sandalwood screen, painted with cranes flying backward. His robes are so still they might be painted on. Even the candlelight dares not flicker too boldly near him. But his eyes, they do not blink. You're kneeling on a cold lacquered floor, spine straight, palms open in your lap. A eunuch has already introduced you with ceremonial precision, evening lychee, emotional calibration profile. To be fully tethered. The words hang in the air like dust motes no one wants to inhale. You are not alone. To your left, two girls from the silk tier, both older and unsmiling. To your right, a boy with bells sewn into his sleeves. They don't make a sound. The Emperor lifts a brush. It glides across rice paper as though it weighs nothing. The sound is maddeningly soft brush against grain, like a cat cleaning itself behind a wall. You're told not to speak unless asked, but no one told your heartbeat. It drums against your ribs like a prisoner trying to dig out. The Emperor finally speaks not to you, but to the scroll. I'm trying to paint longing, he says, but I cannot remember what it looks like. A eunuch bows low. Shall I summon the archivist of sensory affections? Majesty, no. The Emperor replies, I want her to show me. He means you. You rise. You step forward. He points to the empty space beside the painting, half a lotus. Unfinished. Place your hand here, he says, and imagine someone waiting. You do. Not for him. Not for anyone in the room. But for the girl you used to be. The one who thought her feelings were hers alone. You let your palm hover. The Emperor stares at it. Not you, just your hand. Like it's a broken seal on a forgotten letter. Good, he says. Then, softly. Now, let it tremble. You don't fake it. It does. He paints 3 strokes, fast. Then 2 more, slower. A bloom of something delicate and bruised spreads across the parchment. He leans back. To remember an emotion, he says, is to trap it long enough for someone else to feel it. You are dismissed, not with words, with a gesture, a flick of the brush, as though brushing a petal off his sleeve. You return to the waiting chamber. A bowl of tea sits untouched on a nearby tray. Steam curls upward, lonely. Winter fan enters not long after, eyebrows raised. You are summoned, she says. You nod. He painted you. You shrug. Something like that. She walks over, brushes your hair behind your ear like you're a child again. He paints from people, not of them. Big difference. You look up. What does he do with the paintings? No one knows. Some say he burns them. Some say he eats them. You blink. Eats. She grins. The ink is made from squid blood and jasmine resin. Technically edible. That night, you dream of ink pooling in your mouth like guilt you can't swallow. 2 days later, you're summoned again. This time, painted emotions training rotation. You're taken to a studio deep in the West Wing. where light filters through silk panels dyed with ash and pomegranate. Shadows bloom across the walls like bruises with intent. The instructor of effective rendering is a woman in silver robes. Her fingers are stained black with soot. Her eyes are lined in gold. Feelings, she says, are unreliable, but their echoes are not. She assigns you a brush, not horsehair, not wolf, not anything you recognize. This is made from the eyelashes of courtesans who died with their secrets, she says without smiling. You believe her? Your task, paint your first sorrow. You hesitate, then dip the brush. On the paper, you draw not a person, not a moment, but the outline of a teacup, cracked, empty, still warm. The instructor nods. She remembers thirst. Another girl paints a bird in a cage, but the door is open and the bird stays. The instructor frowns. Too obvious. You're moved up a tier. That evening, Winterfan finds you staring at your own reflection in a bowl of still water. You're fading, she says gently. You nod. I feel like I'm more symbol than skin. She considers this. That's good. You'll rise faster. Is that what you want? She doesn't answer. Instead, she reaches into her sleeve and produces a scroll. You've been requested again. You unroll it. At the bottom, in red ink. Bring her to the Emperor's private studio. Tonight, under no moon. And that night, you go. Not dressed in silk, but in plain white. The colour of intentional forgetting. The studio is silent. The Emperor doesn't greet you. He simply gestures to a blank scroll stretched across the floor. Then he hands you the brush. You blink. You want me to paint? He nods. You kneel. You dip the brush. You paint a plum blossom not blooming, not falling, but half plucked. You paint a bowl of water, rippling from something that's already left. You paint a tether with no hands at either end. And when you finish, the Emperor smiles, faintly. Now I remember, he says. You never ask what. You don't need to. When you leave, the candlelight doesn't follow you, but the feeling does. The quiet ache of having once been necessary to someone else's memory. A brush stroke with your name hidden in the pigment. A bloom no one else will ever water. There are two ways to leave the pavilion of silk. One promoted to the outer house, where retired courtesans manage inventories, memorize harvest schedules, and train new girls in the art of not flinching when addressed by a eunuch. To the ceremony of unbinding, and you've never seen it. Only heard the stories whispered between brushing sessions and shadow walks, always in the negative. She didn't pass the unbinding. He begged for her unbinding. They say her unbinding failed, and now she sings backwards. You never thought your name would be posted on the lacquered board. But this morning, it is 3 characters, circled in cinnabar evening lychee. You trace them with your finger as if they might smear. They prepare you in silence. No ceremony, no fanfare, no songs. You're brought to the House of Mirrors, a room shaped like a plum pit round, sharp-edged, cold at its core. The floor is polished obsidian. The walls are lined with mirrors, none of which reflect you properly. Your face warps too long, too small, older than you remember. A monk stands in the centre. He is blindfolded. He holds 2 items, a coil of silver thread and a jar filled with clear water. You kneel. Have you memorized your tethering phrases, he asks. You nod. Speak them aloud. You inhale. I was seen. I was needed. I was shaped. I was returned. The monk nods. Now we begin. He pours the water onto the obsidian floor. It spreads outward in a perfect circle, reflecting a ceiling that isn't there, moonless, infinite. Then he uncoils the silver thread and wraps it around your wrists, your ankles, your throat. Not tight, just close enough to remember. He says tonight you will speak the truth you forgot. Tonight you will see the reflection that never arrived. Tonight you will release the name that held you. You're not sure what that last part means, but you feel your name beginning to unravel, letter by letter, syllable by syllable. The monk circles you. Each step is matched by a soft clang, like wind chimes in thick fog. He hums something without melody but full of shape. You realize it's not a tune, it's your contract, sung backwards. Your ears buzz, your body feels too tall. You look into the mirrors, and now you see your tether not as a thread, but as a garden path winding, wet with rain, dotted with petals from every night you gave something away and didn't get it back. In one mirror, you see the Minister of Memory, forehead to yours. In another, the Emperor, placing the brush in your hand. In the smallest mirror, Winter Fan, watching you sleep. Let go, the monk says. You whisper, I don't know how. He kneels beside you, removes the silver thread, holds your face in his hands. You were never holding it, he says, and that's when it snaps, not audibly, but inside your ribs. Something breaks open like a silk pouch slit by a careless knife. What spills out isn't blood, it's recognition. You see every person who ever borrowed your tenderness and called it a transaction. You see your girlhood, caught in a gold-threaded net. You see yourself offering and offering and offering like a fruit with no pit, peeled clean, still smiling. You begin to cry, not delicately, uglily. The mirrors fog. The monk catches one tear in the jar. This is your receipt, he says. When it's over, you're left alone. No one claps, no one greets you. You rise, walk out. The night air is colder than you remember. Winter Fan waits on the path. You look at her. She looks at you. You're different, she says. You nod. I'm unbound. She tilts her head. Does it feel like freedom, you think? No, it feels like remembering what I never agreed to forget. She hands you a small scroll. No seal, no title. Inside 3 characters. Your real name. You forgot it until now. You whisper it once, then burn the scroll. Because it's not for them. It's for you. No one will tell you where it is. You ask 5 different eunuchs, each more anxious than the last. They look away. Some pretend not to hear. One simply bows and murmurs. She must find it herself. You want to ask. Find what but you already know. They call it the Garden of Stillness, and no one talks about it unless they're certain you'll forget by morning. Except the 7th eunuch. He doesn't speak at all. He only bows once, then turns and begins walking. You follow. You pass through corridors you've never seen. Not once. Even in your 100 shadow walks. No painted screens, no guards, no scent of sweet grass. Just raw stone and dust that tastes like old silk on the tongue. The silence is so deep your footfalls feel borrowed, like the sound belongs to someone else. He leads you downstairs that spiral but never turn. You begin to think you've passed through a memory and come out the wrong side. Then you arrive. A plain door, no guards, no lock, just a plaque, barely carved, faded from time and oil from too many fingers. Only the still may enter. You blink. When you open your eyes again, the door is gone, but you are inside. The room is cold, but not cruel. It's shaped like a peach pit, rounded, hollow, ridged with soft curves that don't seem to match the architecture of the rest of the palace. The ceiling is painted matte black, dotted with tiny points of gold. You recognize no constellations. They seem to shift if you look too long. The floor is sand, but not white, not beige. It's the color of ash sifted smooth, fine enough to sleep in. You walk barefoot across it. It whispers like old parchment folding in half. In the center of the room stands a tree, not of wood, of bone. Thousands of bones, bird-sized, lacquered and polished, interlocked to form a tall, twisting thing that reaches toward the ceiling without ever quite touching it. The bones aren't bleached white. They're yellowed, tea-stained, brittle with memory. They creak, softly, like sighs caught in someone else's ribs. You stop just short of its roots. There is a bowl there, nestled in the ash. It's carved from jade but cracked in 2 places, carefully mended with gold. Inside, nothing. Beside it, a small wooden plaque reads, "Forgive her." There are no instructions, no ritual attendants, no whispered invocations or chanted protocols. Just you, and the tree, and your own heart, which won't stop beating like it's asking to be let out. You sit. The sand shifts beneath you, accepting your weight without resistance. The air smells like forgotten incense, half sweet, half bitter. Something left burning too long. You close your eyes and begin. You remember. Not the sanitized versions in the garden scripts, not the calligraphy brushed across scrolls by trained archivists. You remember the truth. You remember your arrival at the pavilion, stepping over a girl too slow to stand, her lip already swelling from a backhand you never saw land. You remember Winterfan trading her name for your placement. She never told you, but you knew. You always knew. You remember the Minister of Memory, asking if you would allow the shape of your memory as though that had ever been your decision. You remember the Emperor's hand, guiding your trembling fingers across rice paper, painting grief into existence. You remember the ceremony of unbinding, the moment your name shattered inside your chest like glass under silk. And you remember the thing no one warns you about, that freedom is not the absence of tether. It is the weight of knowing you once were bound. The room stays silent, but your mind does not. You look at the bowl again, empty, waiting. Your fingers tremble. You consider leaving something, a tear, a strand of hair, the last syllable of the name they gave you, but none of it feels worthy. Then, in a pocket sewn into your inner sleeve so small you forgot it was there, you find it, a thread, red silk, from your first tethering, the one the minister wrapped around your wrist. You kept it. You told yourself it was accidental. It wasn't. You place it in the bowl. It coils like a snake. It does not vanish. It hums, low, almost below hearing. The tree sighs. A mirror appears behind the bone branches. It was not there before. You approach. The reflection is not you, not exactly. It's a version of you with eyes that never looked down, shoulders that never bowed, a mouth that speaks before being asked. She doesn't blink. She stares back at you, and slowly. She smiles, not cruelly, just knowingly. You raise your hand. She raises hers. You don't touch, but for the first time, you understand. This garden was never meant to cleanse you. It was meant to hold you still long enough to see what grew when no one was watching. Winterfan waits outside the door. She doesn't look surprised, just tired. Her hair is tied back. There's a scar on her palm you don't remember noticing before. She looks at you, then away, then back. Well, she says. You don't answer right away. Instead, you ask, have you ever gone in? Her silence is more honest than any reply. You reach into your robe, hand her the red scroll, her name. She stares at it for a long time, then tears it in half. You catch the pieces before they hit the floor. I'll remember it for you, you say. She smiles just once, then, softly, good, because I won't. You walk together, quietly. No destination, no instructions, just forward. You pass a candle, it flickers once, and then, in that half light, you realize this isn't an exit. It's a beginning. No one thought to name. The moon returns without asking permission. It climbs into the sky like a rumor of forgiveness, pale and too bright, casting its silver indifference over rooftops, silk awnings, and the soft curve of your cheek as you stare out from the edge of the pavilion for the last time. You haven't slept. You haven't been summoned. You simply stayed awake, waiting for something that feels too old to have a name and too new to feel safe. Behind you, the courtyard is quiet. No girls reciting poems, no eunuchs whispering protocol, no footfalls rehearsed to sound accidental, just the wind, nudging your sleeves like an old friend who still thinks you're someone you used to be. The moon watches you, like it remembers everything you forgot, and you begin to speak, not out loud, but somewhere deep inside your ribs. You tell the moon everything. About the first night, when you bled on silk and were told to smile anyway. About the time you were asked to tremble on command and did it too well. About the man who painted longing using the shape of your breath, and the one who memorized your grief as if it belonged in a scroll. About Winterfan, who never cried in front of anyone but once pressed her thumb into your palm and left it there like punctuation. About the Garden of Bone, where you finally gave something back to yourself, and the moment you saw your reflection become someone who did not flinch. You tell the moon all of it, and the moon listens, because the moon has always listened. Even when the world was burning incense over your mistakes and calling them sacrifices, a rustle behind you. Winterfan. She sits beside you, back straight, knees drawn up. She doesn't speak. You sit like that for a long time. The two of you wrapped in moonlight, breathing as if it might be your last job. Eventually, she murmurs, "Do you want to go?" You shake your head. "I don't think there's anywhere to go." She nods. Then maybe we wait until there is. You look at her, the girl who gave up her name so you could have one. The girl who watched you leave and return and leave again, each time less whole, more real. You reach into your robe. There, hidden in the lining, is a final gift, a mirror, the one from the garden that doesn't exist. You set it between you. In it, the moon floats upside down, and both your faces flicker like they're trying to become something else. You speak without moving your mouth. Do you remember who you were before all this winter fan touches the mirror's edge? No, she whispers. But I remember who I wasn't allowed to be. A sound, soft, measured, footsteps. Not towards you, but away. Someone else leaving the pavilion for the last time. Maybe a girl, maybe a shadow. You don't need to know. You only know this. You are not alone, and you never were, inside the pavilion. A single candle gutters and dies. Somewhere in the rafters, a bell chimes once without being rung. In the Imperial Archive, a scroll quietly unrolls itself and begins to fade. And beneath the garden of bone, something sighs like an old root giving way to spring. The moon does not blink, but if it did, you think it might cry. Just once. For all the names whispered too softly to be remembered, and for the ones who dared to remember anyway. The halls are quiet now. Not ceremonially quiet, not the kind of silence enforced by law or ritual, but a softer hush. The kind that lives in old books, empty teacups, and hair that's just been brushed. The last candle has burned itself into a puddle. You can still smell it wax, ash, a memory of jasmine that only half existed. The flame may be gone, but its shadow lingers, barely visible, curled like a cat in the corner of the room. You lie back on the polished floor. It is warm not from fire, but from having held so many bodies over time. The wood remembers you. It presses gently into your spine like it's trying to whisper something back. The moonlight slips in through the latticed window. It glides across the floor in silver ribbons, touching the empty chair where a teacher once sat, the inkstone still stained from when you trembled too well. You close your eyes, and you see it all again, not in order, not like a scroll unrolling, but like petals floating in a bowl drifting, brushing edges, turning slow in invisible water, the bowl in the garden, the brush in the Emperor's hand, the silver thread, the girl who didn't flinch, all of them, part of you. You're not trying to hold on to them now, just letting them rest, letting them breathe. The floor creaks once, but nothing moves. You take a long breath, let it out, another, and another, and finally you listen to the quiet like it's a lullaby meant only for you. Somewhere beyond the pavilion, the world turns slow, indifferent, full of forgotten names and remembered songs. But here, inside this stillness, you're safe, you're soft, you're gone. Sleep now. She remembers you.